Billionaire CEO pretends to sleep to test his shy maid. What she does next leaves him in tears. Alexander Thorne ruled his empire from a penthouse that scraped the clouds, his name synonymous with ruthless deals and icy detachment. His world was polished marble, silent efficiency, and the unspoken rule: everyone had a price. Everyone, he believed, was transactional. Even the quiet maid who cleaned his study every Tuesday and Thursday at precisely 3 p.m. Elena was a ghost in his opulent home, barely 20, with eyes that held a depth far beyond her years, and a voice so soft it was almost a whisper. She moved with a grace that seemed out of place amidst the cold grandeur. She never met his gaze directly, never spoke unless spoken to, and her worn uniform always looked meticulously clean. Alexander found her unsettlingly unassuming. In a world where people clamored for his attention, her quiet invisibility was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Was it fear, disinterest, or something else? One Tuesday, a seed of cynical curiosity took root. What if I test her? The thought was cold, clinical, born of his ingrained suspicion. He deliberately left a single, crisp $100 bill folded neatly on the edge of his vast obsidian desk, right where she'd see it while dusting. He then settled into his high-backed leather chair in the corner, feigning deep sleep, his breathing slow and even, his eyes slitted just enough to observe through his lashes. Elena entered precisely at 3 p.m. The soft shh of her cloth on the desk was the only sound. Alexander watched, hidden, as she fell on the money. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, quickly replaced by something unreadable. She paused, her hand hovering near the bill. Ah, Alexander thought smugly, the mask slips, greed reveals itself. But Elena didn't pocket it. She didn't even touch it immediately. She looked around the room, her gaze lingering for a fraction of a second on the sleeping figure in the chair. Then, with infinite care, she picked up the bill. Alexander braced himself for the swift tuck into a pocket. Instead, Elena walked silently to the small, framed photograph she always carried tucked into the inside pocket of her uniform. She pulled it out, a faded picture of a younger girl with bright eyes and a gap-toothed smile, lying in a hospital bed, tubes snaking from her arms. Her thumb traced the girl's face, her expression softening with a tenderness that made Alexander's chest tighten unexpectedly. He saw the faint smudges of exhaustion under her own eyes, the slight tremor in her hand as she looked from the photo back to the $100 bill. His cynical certainty wavered. Why isn't she taking it? The question echoed unbidden. Then Elena did something that shattered his assumptions completely. She walked not towards the door, but towards him. Her steps were hesitant, almost reverent. She stopped beside his chair, close enough that he could smell the faint, clean scent of laundry soap on her uniform. For a long moment, she simply stood there, looking down at his sleeping form. Her eyes weren't calculating. They held a profound, quiet sadness and something else: compassion. Slowly, gently, she placed the $100 bill back on the desk right where he'd left it. But she didn't stop there. From the small, worn purse at her waist, she pulled out a few crumpled bills, a $20, a $10, and some singles. Her fingers trembled slightly as she counted them out. With meticulous care, she placed her own meager savings on top of his $100. Alexander's breath hitched, though he kept his facade of sleep. What is she doing? Then, in a voice so soft it was barely audible, yet carrying the weight of the world, she whispered, "Please, Mr. Thorne, if you see this, my sister, Lily, she's in St. Mary's, room 412. The bills, they're for her medicine. The hospital, They said, without the payment by Friday, they might stop her treatment. She took a shaky breath, her gaze fixed on his closed eyes, as if pouring her desperate hope into them. She didn't ask for the money back. She didn't demand help. She simply laid bare her most vulnerable truth, her deepest fear to the man she believed was asleep, trusting him with her secret in the only way she knew how, through an act of heartbreaking honesty and misplaced hope. Then, with a final, lingering look at the photograph in her hand, she tucked it away, smoothed her uniform, and left the room as silently as she'd entered, closing the door with the softest click. The moment the door latched, Alexander Thorne's carefully constructed world of ice cracked and shattered. He sat up, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Tears, hot and utterly alien, welled in his eyes, blurring the sight of the money on his desk, his $100, and her desperate, sacrificial offering on top. He saw it all with devastating clarity now. Her quietness wasn't fear or disinterest. It was the weight of a burden too heavy to share. Her invisibility wasn't indifference. It was the exhaustion of fighting a silent battle while cleaning his floors. She hadn't seen the $100 as a test or a gift. She'd seen it as a potential lifeline for her sister, and in her profound humility and love, she'd offered her own last cents alongside it, hoping against hope that the sleeping giant might somehow see her plea. The cold, transactional billionaire was gone. In his place sat a man humbled to his core, tears streaming freely down his face. Not tears of sadness, but of overwhelming shame and a dawning, profound respect. He looked at the photograph she'd left visible on the desk for a moment, the brave, sick little girl with the gap-toothed smile, Lily. He picked up his phone, his voice thick with emotion, but firm with purpose. "James, cancel my afternoon meetings. No, all of them. Then get me the head of St. Mary's Hospital on the line. And James, find Elena. Bring her to my office now. And make sure someone pays Lily's bill. Every single cent, today." As he waited, Alexander Thorne stared at the $100 bill and the small pile of crumpled notes beside it. It wasn't just money on his desk. It was a mirror reflecting his own arrogance and a beacon illuminating the extraordinary quiet strength of a woman who, in her darkest hour, chose kindness and honesty over desperation. In that silent moment of her whispered plea, she hadn't just returned his money, she'd given him back his humanity. And for the first time in decades, Alexander Thorne understood what truly mattered. It wasn't power or wealth or control. It was the courage to be vulnerable, the grace to give without expectation, and the quiet, unshakable love that could melt even the coldest heart. He wiped his tears not with shame, but with the fierce determination to become worthy of the trust she had unknowingly placed in him. The test was over, and he had failed spectacularly, until her kindness gave him a second chance. If you believe in kindness and second chance, please like, share, and subscribe to ACA Storytales for more emotional stories. Your support helps us spread hope to millions. Thanks for watching.